When you think of experimental filmmaking, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it artistic and abstract? Is it weird and bizarre? Is it creepy and macabre? Truth is, experimental filmmaking can be all of these things and so much more. We automatically associate experimental and avant-garde films with these terms because they don't fit the standard norms of the mainstream films that we're used to. While these films can be weird, difficult, and even complex to watch, there's much more to the history and conception of these films than what meets the eye. Since its conception, avant-garde cinema has pushed filmmaking to a new boundary in terms of innovation and creation. For this video essay, I will be examining how the genre of avant-garde and experimental filmmaking has evolved within cinema through the use of experimentation and creativity, as well as how the genre has left its mark on cinema. Before I begin, it's important to understand what experimental film really is. Experimental film is often referred to as avant-garde and vice versa. This method of filmmaking originated in Europe, specifically France, as a response to the industrial process of commercial films, which followed a set of formal and stylistic conventions such as narrative-driven plots and conventional film techniques. On the other side of the spectrum came experimental films. Compared to the big-budget mainstream imagery that commercial films often provide, avant-garde films are made by smaller groups of filmmakers with a significantly smaller budget. These projects are made to challenge preconceptions and conventions of traditional filmmaking in order to provide a thought-provoking experience. In the aftermath of World War I, the Surrealism movement was formed, where artists were able to expand on concepts that created illusionistic imagery and techniques, hence the formation of experimental media. Avant-garde cinema is often distinguished by the process of how films are made, based on the thought-provoking techniques and methods used to conceptualize the director's vision and viewing experience. Most avant-garde films follow three basic principles: light, movement, and time. This is regarded as the true essence of cinema, mainly because these are aspects of a film that are essential to the moving image. The avant-garde genre consists of two movements which sparked the discourse within experimental cinema: French Impressionism and German Expressionism. I want to focus on two films in particular from each of these movements: Faithful Heart, directed by Jean Epstein, and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, directed by Robert Wiene. Both of these films represent two sides of the same coin when it comes to avant-garde cinema, with the main differences being shown through the filmmaking techniques used to bring these films to life. Faithful Heart, directed by Jean Epstein, is an excellent representation of the French Impressionism movement within avant-garde cinema. While the film follows a melodramatic narrative of love and violence, the main focus relies on the photogeny, camera work, and editing patterns. The photogeny is a term coined by Jean Epstein himself. It refers to the phenomenon experienced when a film's subject matter, use of the camera, and the author's vision are aligned. The photogeny is achieved when captured elements of reality are displayed through the mechanics of the camera, resulting in imagery being filtered in order to create a subjective viewing experience and filmmaking process. A notable example of this is the ending of the film, where Jean and Marie embrace each other. The sequence of superimposed imagery is referred to as defamiliarization, a filmmaking technique that stems from the photogeny. Defamiliarization is used as an effect throughout this film to create images that would be unperceivable to the human eye in reality. These effects are matched with the fast-paced discontinuity editing and camera work in order to create a subjective reality. The ending of this film is enhanced with defamiliarization as a means to show the inner pain that lingers within the minds of these characters, even though they're finally at peace to rekindle their love. In response to French Impressionism came German Expressionism, an avant-garde movement which originated in Germany before and after the censorship and socio-political state of World War I. Whereas Impressionism creates a new perception by capturing images through camera and editing techniques, Expressionism enhances the concept of subjective emotions through the use of mise-en-scene and cinematography. The aesthetics and visual styles used by these film techniques help to break away from reality. For example, in early horror films of the genre, the twisted macabre horror visuals create an effect that help viewers not only stray away from reality, but become filled with fear and horror. The most notable examples of these are films such as Nosferatu, as well as The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which I'll be focusing on. From the jagged and abstract shapes used on the film's set design to the intense Dutch angles, the entire film provokes an emotional response of fear and tension, creating a new viewing experience that compares to that of French Impressionism. The narrative of the film is encapsulated by the horror elements displayed through the use of cinematography and set design. The harsh lighting adds to the luminous and menacing tone of the film, and the jagged set designs, such as Dr. Caligari's house, serves as an allegory to the character's unstable well-being. The influence from German Expressionism and French Impressionism reshaped the paradigms of Hollywood cinema, and how film techniques could be used to enhance the visual aesthetics of filmmaking. Another film which utilizes a powerful tool within experimental filmmaking is Dziga Vertov's Man with the Movie Camera. This film follows a day in the life of Soviet city dwellers, told through the eyes of a camera lens. In the book, Light Moving in Time, Studies in the Visual Aesthetics of Avant-Garde Film, author William C. Hess states, "Any cinematic expression of vision must emerge from the optical, photochemical, and mechanical processes of making and showing films. Although these processes differ greatly from those of visual perception, they are designed to produce an image comparable to the world we see when we look around us." What this essentially boils down to is that filmmakers need to develop the true essence of human perception in order to find the true essence of cinema within the moving image. In Kinowai, the writings of Dziga Vertov, Vertov himself relays his own personal experiences behind the filmmaking process of Man with a Movie Camera. We feel that one must not only think of the beauty of this or that shot, one must proceed from considerations of efficiency. This means that one adapts the angle from which a given object can best be seen. An efficient angle of this sort represents a new viewpoint for us. Case in point, this is shown through the conception of the film via storyboards, which translate Vertov's perception of the camera eye onto the camera screen. Vertov's goal was to create an authentic cinema experience as realistic as possible by interjecting the camera into the events of real-life people, reshaping the subjectivity within the avant-garde genre, as well as having a major impact on the objectivity and authenticity within the documentary filmmaking genre. Avant-garde cinema has certainly had an impact and influence on other filmmakers due to its movements such as expressionism and its utilization of film techniques. While the influence of experimental filmmaking was adapted by filmmakers across Europe and even managing to come to America, it goes without saying that it also received criticism and backlash due to its subject matter and style. Experimental filmmaking not only produces art by straying away from the conventional paradigms of Hollywood cinema, but it can also serve as an artistic critique of socioeconomic and political issues. Psychiatrist Gustav Carl Jung developed a concept titled collective unconscious. The concept elaborates on how individuals share a collective and universal consciousness, which consists of emotional archetypes and desires. It's quite complex, but this concept is a direct correlation with the work of experimental film director Luis Buñuel, who sought to achieve the collective unconscious through the use of exploring subconscious emotions and desires. Buñuel worked with artist Salvador Dalí to create his first short film, An Andalusian Dog. The film combined with elements of avant-garde surrealism with the unconscious focus of having the mind act on its desires with graphic depictions of love and lust, while disregarding humanitarian norms and ideals. Imagery of violence and mutilation appear in the film as another means to act on the unconscious desire, and as a way to shake up the status quo among Parisian high society. After the surprising success of the film, Buñuel created a sequel titled The Golden Age, which shared similar themes to the first film, but serving as a hard critique of the morals of bourgeoisie society and the Catholic Church, by depicting graphic acts of sexual imagery and violence as a form of social and psychological repression. This political critique of unconscious filmmaking was received negatively by viewers and critics alike at the time, with screenings of the film being banned or riots breaking out in between. So what does this have to do with avant-garde as a whole? It's important to note that the experimental films, both expressionistic and impressionistic, have been used as tools to elaborate on political viewpoints and time periods. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari consists of themes such as authority and serves as a dark reflection on Germany's state after World War I. Man with the Movie Camera focuses on the existing ideals within the Soviet world, captured through the lens of the camera. Receiving both positive and negative reception, these examples stand out as films that are able to capture and build upon political commentary through the use of film techniques and psychological concepts in order to evoke an emotional viewing experience. Avant-garde cinema has certainly found its niche among experimental filmmakers who are willing to create passion projects or explore the creative and conscious side of filmmaking techniques. One of my favorite avant-garde directors is Len Lai, who specialized in creating films such as A Color Box and Tray Tattoo that utilize the techniques of defamiliarization through superimposed imagery and fast-paced editing. Even simple avant-garde films such as Lemon, which focuses on the change in lighting, and The Girl Chewing Gum display fundamental techniques which were established in early editions of the avant-garde genre. Today, avant-garde cinema has evolved to the point where it's able to meet the best of both worlds in filmmaking. There's still filmmakers keeping it separate from the commercial conventions of Hollywood cinema, but projects such as branding ads and music videos have adapted elements of avant-garde filmmaking through the use of editing techniques and creative liberties. Experimental films are now more common than ever, with films being able to incorporate a narrative while following the fundamental principles of the genre. With that being said, the genre is ever expanding and can't ever be defined by a single film. Experimental filmmaking is always changing, and there will never be a stopping point in achieving the true essence of cinema.